Um, my name is Barry Goldenberg, and we are here at the Baha'i Center in Lower East Side, um, New York City, New York. It's November 11th, 2016, and I have the great honor to interview Dr. Hussein Adia, who helped start Harlem Prep, and just kind of want to hear your story and learn about your experiences at Harlem Prep. And I'm so grateful that you're here and you're able to share that. So I just kind of wanted to start and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you grew up, how you ended up in New York, and about your childhood educational experiences, and we'll start there.
No problem. Thank you, Barry, for this opportunity. As a matter of fact, I just finished writing another book at an old age. Basically, that's all I can do. Most of my organs not working anymore. My heart, my legs, but my mouth and my brain still is working. So I wrote a book which will be published soon called Foreigner, from Ladies to New York.
Okay.
And it's an interesting story that how being a minority in Iran,
Yeah.
feeling like a foreigner in
Yeah.
that country, eventually I came to America and I ended up to again be a foreigner
Yeah.
in this country. But at the same time, being a Baha'i,
Yeah.
it gave me an opportunity to be of some service to my family, my friends, and humanity as a
Yeah.
whole. This is a tenet of my religion.
Yeah.
That that's what we should really pursue. And the place I came from is a small village in the south of Iran. It's not far from a big city called Shiraz,
Okay.
which is well known in among the literary folks, because that's where the two great Persian poets came
Yeah.
from, Hafez and Sa'di.
Yeah.
They are well known, and lots of their work has been translated to English. They were sort of mystical figures.
Okay.
That's why everyone was in love with him, along with Rumi and Khayyam and others. So our village was pretty much divided between two groups, a minority of Baha'is and a majority of Muslims.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the history of almost every religion showed that at the beginning, they are persecuted, they are abused, and they are suppressed. And the same thing happened to my faith, which was Babi and Baha'i. So we were forced eventually to leave the village because my father was kidnapped, was pretty much beat up, and he decided to leave the town. We went to another big city in Abadan, and then when I finished the high school, I decided to come to America. Maybe it was a mistake. I was too young, not enough experience, not know the language, but somehow I wanted to get away and go to a new place,
Sure.
a new culture. I went to American Embassy, tried to get some help. I wanted to become a nuclear engineer. Those days in 1950s, 60s, with the Einstein, with the von Braun, with Sputnik and all that, the idea of nuclear engineer was
Yeah.
a sort of prince of the field.
Yeah.
So I guess they realized that I don't know what I'm talking about with my poor English, and this farmer come from a small town, he wants to go to America.
Yeah.
So they gave me most likely a directory of American universities, and probably she pointed out two places that they had that program. One was Columbia, and the other one was Harvard.
Yeah.
So most likely she helped me to write a letter for them and ask for application and
Yeah.
this and that. So I followed the procedure. Soon I got a negative answer from Columbia that you're not qualified to know the language.
Sure.
They didn't accept
Sure.
me. But somehow Harvard accepted me. I was so excited. My family was excited. I remember my father constantly bragged about his son and what I have accomplished. Came to New York on the boat. It was a ocean liner called Queen Mary. It
Oh, wow.
was a hotel in San Diego area.
This is your parents.
No, the boat I came
Oh,
to
the boat you
America,
came, okay.
from England to New York.
Got it.
I think it was 5-6 days to get to New York. And so I stayed in YMCA downtown. I was telling people I have to go to Washington to find a place to live. But then they keep telling me, if you go to Harvard, you have to go to Boston. No, it's Washington. Then of course at that point realized I was accepted to Harvard. Can you imagine? From a Persian.
That's a pretty funny story, really.
Going to Harvard, a black university, to study nuclear engineering. And I don't know why they accepted me. Probably they were surprised and they figured out, let's give him a chance. Came to New York, and of course, life was quite difficult.
How old were you when you came to New York?
17, 18 years old.
Had you finished schooling?
High school.
You finished high school in Iran and you came to New York.
I came to New York with the intention of going to university. Now, of course, the Harvard did not work out. Harvard, so I found a university in New Jersey called Fairleigh Dickinson, and that's where I started. You have to remember, I came with a student visa, and those days, this idea of deportation of somebody who doesn't follow his visa's requirement was quite rigid and serious. So I was constantly under threat of being deported. And in order to stay in the country, I have to keep studying and going to school. But meanwhile, I had no money. So I had to work illegally to make a living and pay for tuition. But I managed. So life was not going very smooth. The highlight of that period, I mean, it's a whole bunch of things, but I would say that going to the famous march in Washington with Dr. King.
So you were there?
I was there, yes. We were there with a few of my friends, Persian. We drove there, and of course couldn't afford to go hotel and place. We had to sleep in a car for a couple of nights. And the big discussion that we had in the car, and while we were there, wishing that something similar would happen in Persia, that the same oppression that the black people have gone through and they are going through is happening to majority of people in Iran, especially the Baha'is. So this was always in the back of my mind, and somehow I identify myself with the same thing as Jews historically. They've always been the forefront of every civil rights movement or liberal ideology because they've been oppressed. So somehow I felt the same way, that we are in the same basket with lots of these black kids and others. So that in the back of my mind, on a later date, when I come across people like Ed Carpenter and Ann, these were the people who were involved with, beginning to get involved with Harlem Prep, I got excited, and I figured out this is one avenue that I can pursue. Of course, my education had nothing to do with the working education system. I had a bachelor in electrical engineering. I had a master in European intellectual history. All this to hold my visa. Otherwise, then eventually I got a PhD in education after we get involved with Harlem Prep, and then the story of Harlem Prep started. So we can go on.
No, that's excellent, and I know in your book you describe some of kind of the travels to New York. And so tell me about meeting Ed and Ann Carpenter. And you said in your book that that they kind of drew you to Harlem Prep, and you just said you didn't have a background in education. So what about meeting them? What did they tell you? What was that like? I think I want to go work in a school when you hadn't done that before. And then also, what were they like in terms of these kind of first experiences meeting them and deciding, I'm going to do this?
I was in a Baha'i school. It's a sort of a summer school in Maine called Greenacre. It's a beautiful setting right close to the Portsmouth. And on the third day, I remember of staying there, this black couple came, and they were quite dynamic, and the man was talkative and charming, charismatic. The wife was so serene and so quiet and calm. And I remember, I don't want to be sound racist, us Persians love watermelon. And so we were sitting around the table and eating watermelon. The first thing this couple did, especially the fellow, he came and began to eat our watermelon. So I felt very close to him, with no invitation, I feel so casual. and he kept calling me brother. Uh, so I began to like him from that very first moment. Then in the
Instant connection.
Yes, exactly. It was a watermelon
Yeah.
was our first
anything
connection.
works.
Exactly. And then he talked about he's getting involved in schools and Harlem Prep, and I think he gave a short talk also about what he's up to. And so we stayed in touch after that because he used to live in New Jersey and I was in New York, and I met him a few times and things like this. And little by little, I was drawn to the idea. In process, of course, I went to some meeting with Whitney Young, who at that point was a national chairman of a urban league. He was an amazing man.
Yeah.
Really, he was such a solid character. And unfortunately, he was drowned in Nigeria or someplace in Africa in one of those rivers. The concept of Harlem Prep, I guess you have written about it, it was really an answer to the shortcoming of the public educational system to fulfill the needs of the minority in general, in particular in Harlem. And big disaster was this concept of dropout, that more than 50% of these kids at some point after they start school, they leave and they never finish the high school. So that was the end of really their dream.
Sure.
So we came up with this clever plot that in America, you have to come with some plan or something cute or something that appeal.
Sure.
We said, okay, the school is going to be a college prep. The kids are going to stay with us only for 1 year, and we will not become a sort of high school diploma or anything like this. We would give them a diploma after they get accepted to university. So this way they realize it's not what they call a GED process.
This was to go to college.
It's a focus.
Yeah.
And we promised them that if they really commit themselves and if they stick to their dreams and our work, we make sure they go to college and universities. And those days, I have a feeling that there was something in the air, that the kids and the parents and the community were more committed to really do something for the society and for the minority.
Yeah.
The white, black, Spanish, everyone was working together. So that milieu and that arrangement really helped us to attract a group of kids who they want to succeed. They knew nothing is happening in the streets. They take their education seriously. And the colleges, universities, I'm still surprised that they took our words, because there was nothing to show that this kid is really
I kind of wondered that myself. That kind of relationship
college bound,
college
qualified now. It's just recommendation of the school administrator, in particular the nuns. Nuns have a great connection with all over. Two groups I really respect: the Jesuit and the nuns. These folks are master in the finding ways of doing things. So somehow they connected with their contact and all that, and they got a whole bunch of our kids to university, and thanks God they did good. So that was really the beginning of the taking some more students. And just jump forward, if we would have stayed as a small setting, we could still be around and be successful. But the trouble in America is that you have to get big, and you keep getting success, bring more success. So suddenly there was a flow of the money from all over the place. And we got bigger and bigger and bigger, and reached a point that we need millions of dollars to survive. So most our effort, instead of going toward education and toward really doing what original plan was spent on fundraising. Whoever become board of trustee, what can he do to raise some money for us? Instead of what kind of education he can contribute to our program. The Ed Carpenter, myself, really, I would say more than 50% of our time was going for luncheon for some rich folks, can give us a check for 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and we manage. But then eventually reach a point that this could not continue, because the big foundation, corporation help us, they begin to withdraw.
Yeah.
They have this concept that they don't want to be perpetually involved in any
Yeah.
program. They give the seeds money, they support it, they encourage it, but then eventually they will withdraw. And so the choice was at this point, maybe I'm jumping ahead, the choice was to either close the school or go with the public system, which they were quite anxious to absorb us. So we had lots of discussion with the faculty. There were quite a number of them who were against it because we are selling out and this and that. But then there were a whole bunch of them who needed a job, and I don't blame them. So we negotiated a rather interesting arrangement with Board of Ed, and I stayed with them. Ed left right away. I stayed to make sure the transition
would take place. He left in '74?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what year. But then I stayed, I think, another year or so, or maybe less. Then I left also, and I went to Fordham.
Yeah. And there's I kind of want to get back to a few things, but since we're on the kind of topic of the kind of later years, and why did you I saw in some of the documents as well that you were in some of the meetings with whether it be Exxon executives and people like that. Why were they so interested in Harlem Prep from your why were they wanting to give money to the school?
Why
from your experiences?
I think it was the beginning of the realization that especially the corporation, that they have to not always looking at the bottom line, how much money they are making, also what they're doing for society and what they're doing for the environment and what they're doing for education. There were some people, I was at the very beginning, of course everybody's talking about it. They have their own agenda and they really support it. But there were some people within these big companies who were not just looking for a recognition of the name of a company. Exxon, I'm sure, originally did not get involved with Harlem Prep because they were a bunch of good Christians. They got involved because it was a good publicity for them.
Sure, of course.
Same thing with Coca-Cola, same this and that.
That's kind of what I've been trying to figure out.
Exactly. It was sort of thing when the president of Coca-Cola company come all the way from Atlanta to sit on the stage in our graduation ceremony and give him a certificate of recognition. They would go back and they use this as they are helping the black folks to go to college and things like this. But then I'm sure that within the corporation, within the companies, there were those elements who wanted to do something. But this was the American really tradition, and the welfare of the fellow citizen also is considered this kind of adventures.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and that's something that I've been trying to figure out is and not to sound cynical, but what are the motivations, the rationale for people like that to get involved? So that's really enlightening. And you also mentioned that it kind of got so big that it became all about fundraising. Just in your approximation, or when do you kind of see? Did you see a turning point where by the mid '70s or so, where Harlem Prep really started to kind of grow, where it kind of got we need a lot more money, we have a lot of students, because it started so small at the beginning. And the turning point or so?
The third year of the school was the one that sort of success began to get to our head.
Okay.
Because when you see that there was a, I tell the friends sometimes that if I would have charged every visitor to Harlem Prep a small amount of money, that would be good enough to support the school.
Wow.
Every day there was a bus load sometimes of the teachers, educators, all kind of people, locally, nationally, internationally, from Israel, from China, from Finland, that they would come, because one thing that works perfect, and I have to give credit to Ed Carpenter's charismatic approach, we got such a publicity for the school, which was unheard of. Really, I think every day that you buy a New York Times or Amsterdam News or listen to a TV or Time magazine, there was something about Harlem Prep, who visit the school, how they're doing, they need money. This was the trend, and that was going on. I remember I got the call from there was this great fellow, what's his name now? William Buckley. William Buckley, his office called, and they said, and I was fond of him because I like his strong conservative point of view. He was so serious about his thing, and I was watching him lots of times.
Yeah.
There was a program on PBS called Firing Line that he was debating with liberal, and he stood his ground, and he was pretty good at that. I think he's the one who wrote the book God is Dead at Yale or something.
Okay.
He was a
Not
Yale student. Now, they called up and said he wanted to come visit the school. So, of course, he's welcome to come. And I anticipate some problem because I knew his big mouth was going to get us in trouble.
Yeah.
So he came, he sat down, and then he said, is there any way that he can meet with some students and some teachers? And we had this tradition that if he was an interesting visitor, we would disband the classes and we quickly form an assembly.
Okay.
And the physical arrangement was as such that could be done. We just moved the petition and this and that. All of a sudden, all the kids could see and the speaker would be there. So Mr. Buckley began to make his very conservative presentation.
Were most people more liberal? You know?
Everyone was liberal.
Okay.
And everyone actually was radical.
Yeah.
And most of them were leftists.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden this arch conservative is making presentation. And I could see from the face of the kids and all that they're not very happy. So after that, he opened the floor. Oh, Jesus Christ, why you do this?
Not a good idea, right?
Not a good idea. Open the floor to question and answer. And so, of course, they started to jump on him, and he was very strong answering the questions. I remember that we had a teacher, Dr. Ben, was our social science teacher, and he had this weird idea, some of it may be true, that everything started in Africa. Moses went to Africa and got his inspiration.
Yeah.
Jesus got his from him. The whole civilization started from Africa. Which part of it is true, but I think he was exaggerating. So he got up and made this statement. Boy, you should see William Buckley, the way he jumped on him. I felt so bad for him. And I was afraid that there may be a riot, because the kids loved that man. He finished the presentation, and he came to my office, and he said, I'm going to do something which I don't want to anybody knows about this. None of the students. I said, "Look, Mr. Buckley," he said, "I'm going to make a contribution to the school, and but I don't want no students or teachers know that I have done that, because I don't want them to feel that I'm buying their love or the support." So he said, "Thank you, welcome." So I thought he's going to write a check for $1,000, $500, $50,000.
Wow.
Those days, make a check of $50,000, that would be a whole month of payroll for the school. I said, God bless them, I love conservatives. He can come back again,
anytime.
No problem. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had this, Senator Javed would come, Nelson Rockefeller would issue.
Why were conservatives so drawn to the school?
I think even the conservative people like him, they wanted, because they began to realize they have to solve this question of the assimilation of the minority to American society. They are not going back to Africa.
Sure. So
sooner they do this, better the countries are. So they mean it.
Yeah.
And I had this notion, unfortunately things has changed, that the majority of the volunteers who came to help us, many teachers who applied to help us to get a job for the low pay, they were from white community, because they want to do something for black folks and the black community, and it helped. It did this job. So somewhere I think I should also. I need a break. A glass of water can be a stop for a moment.